Hi, everybody. My name's Gabriella Heiser, and I'm your host for the next 2020 here on the Boca Raton Tribune TV. Welcome back. I know we took a little break from the next 2020. Classes are starting up. I'm sure a lot of you had kids going to school or someone you knew. There's just a lot going on. So I thought we needed to take a break, but we're back. And thank you for being here and being aware of what was happening. So also thank you for the Boca Raton Tribune for this opportunity. Make sure you subscribe to them on Facebook and YouTube and check out all the other shows they're doing because they have some great stuff going on. So today on my show, actually, let's go back. For people who don't know, the next 2020 is a show that we talk to young professionals in different industries. We talk about their journeys, their experiences, different interesting topics that are going on in the world today. Great conversation. So if you ever want to be on the show or ever want us to talk about a certain topic, definitely just reach out, let us know, and we'll make it happen. So today we're going to be talking about public policy. What does that mean? Well, we have two great guests that are going to come on and tell us all about it and talk with us about their journeys and experiences. So without further ado, let's welcome Shannon and Natalia. Hello.
Hi.
How are you guys?
Good.
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm doing well. Thank you guys for being on the show. Super excited to have you guys here. Yeah. So let's just get started. So I want you guys to go around, tell us a little bit about yourselves, where you went to school / where you go to school, what you studied, and why you decided to pursue it. So Shannon, why don't we start with you?
Hi, I'm Shannon Wong. Thank you, Gabby, for having us on the show. I am currently a second-year law student at Florida State University's College of Law, and I actually attended Florida State University for undergrad as well. For undergrad, I got my bachelor's degree in criminology with a minor in psychology, and I kind of just picked that because it was something interesting to me, and then it wasn't until after I graduated and took a gap year that I decided to go to law school.
Yeah. Awesome.
Hi, I'm Natalia Cooper. I went to Howard University in Washington, D.C., where I studied economics and political science. I started first as just a poli-sci major, and I really thought I wanted to go to law school like you, Gabby, and Shannon. But my interests have evolved a little bit, like Shannon, due to my experiences outside of school.
That's awesome. That's great. Super exciting. I love that you guys have such great backgrounds and are doing great things. So I guess talking a little bit about your journeys, what was one of the biggest challenges you guys faced along the way? Natalia, why don't we start with you this time?
Like I kind of mentioned how I shifted gears a bit in what I was interested in doing after school. I realized my junior year of college that what I wanted to do was economic policy research with like some quantitative elements in there, which is not what I was learning with just my political science major and my internship experiences so far. And I decided I needed to study something else. And I added econ as a second major my second semester of my junior year, which is really late in the game. So that was a big challenge. Thanks to the IB program, which all three of us are graduates of, I had a few economics credits, so it helped a bit. But I did have to quickly figure out how I was going to succeed with like a whole entire new major so late, and with classes that were different and harder, especially with the math requirements.
Mm-hmm.
Math.
How did you overcome
that? Math is definitely a big challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to like relearn how to study. I sort of started with the basics, like our multiplication times tables. Like we were great at those in elementary school, but like by college, I was a bit rusty there. So even like I just downloaded an app because I knew that like, although I didn't want to, be a mathematician or anything, like to succeed in like public policy in like the lane I wanted to go in, I had to have like that skill set. So I just started, like doing more problems, taking better notes in class, taking better notes on my own, which I think is probably good advice for school just in general. But being organized and making sure that I had all my ducks in a row in terms of what classes I had to take to graduate on time was important too. So how I overcame it was, I guess, just trying hard and like having more of like a growth mindset instead of a fixed mindset.
Love it.
I didn't want to just tell myself, well, I can't do math, so I'm just not gonna, go this route. But yeah.
That's awesome.
And then there's me, who I'm like, I can't do math, so I need to go into law.
No, I'm
Like,
with you. Glad you said it. I was feeling it.
and then when they're like asking about damages, I'm like, oh no, don't ask me.
9 times 2.
Yeah, exactly. No, one of I would say my biggest challenges was being a first generation college student and law student. So for undergrad, I had my brother who had applied and went to UCF. So I had him for undergrad, but when it came to law school, my family was like, sure, we'll support you, but we don't know what you have to do.
Yeah.
So that was a huge, I mean, when I was deciding to apply to law school, I literally Googled like, what do I have to do to apply to law school? And they were like, oh, the LSAT. So I needed all the help I can get. And how I overcame that was by working at the state attorney's office. I had so many attorneys that had obviously been through it. And had firsthand experience, that they were the ones that really helped me, and they really were my support system for applying and starting my first year as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. So I wanted to talk a little bit because I know, so actually we know, but the audience don't know. Yeah. That we all went to IB together at Atlantic Community High School. So that's how we all know each other. So it's kind of fun coming back. And it was crazy because I always knew I wanted to be a lawyer. So I went in to take my LSAT, and who do I see just standing there? Shannon.
I know.
And I was like, hello.
And we were like, oh, you too? We're doing
So really small world. It's great. I love it.
And then on the breaks, we would like come out and like, you can't talk. So we just like stare at each other with like death in our eyes. Like we were not doing well.
We're like, how do we finish this quickly? So that's awesome, though, that you guys are talking about your story. And that's really important to talk about your story because a lot of people face similar challenges that they don't really know how to overcome it. So my next question would be, did you guys have mentors that assisted you throughout your career? And if so, can you explain how they shaped your career? Whoever wants to start with this one.
I guess I'll go first because I was just kind of touching on it. I definitely had a whole group of mentors at the state attorney's office. So they were assistant state attorneys who were practicing, going to court every day, that kind of thing. So not only was when I was handling their cases from the victim witness coordinator side, they would try and teach me. They would like give me little hints as to like, oh, this is what a score sheet is. This is what this and that is. So they not only helped me really start my legal career before I was even in law school, but they were definitely huge assets. I mean, when I was like taking the LSAT and, Gabby, we were both freaking out when we got scores back. They were like, okay, you need to do this and this to do better next time. Or, I think that's a good score. You don't need to pay $200 and take it again. So they definitely helped. I mean, they shaped basically everything of my legal career, because now I want to go into criminal law, whether it's prosecution or defense, I haven't decided, but they were like the ones that showed me this is the light, this is where you want to go. And I was like, you're right, I do want to go there.
That's awesome.
For me, I consider my mom a big career mentor for me. I'm really grateful for that. I know that's a privilege to like have a mom who is in a position to give me good advice about, where to turn to for a lot of just career questions. So I'm grateful for that. And then I also had an internship where it was an education research focused internship. And my supervisor there was a really great mentor for me. He was really instrumental in me learning like my research and data skills, and he took a big interest in making sure I was succeeding and balancing what I had going on in the semester while also giving me like big challenges at work, which was good because I think sometimes internships can be your supervisor just gives you like small tasks and like pats you on the back for like a good job, but he like pushed me to do things that were a bit out of my comfort zone. So that was good also.
That's awesome. So I guess my next question would be, what advice would you give to someone looking to go into the field? And it's a great question to ask you both because you guys didn't start out wanting to do that, So I think your perspective on this will be great. 'Cause it's like, hey, if you are too late in applying, you're not. Here's why. So
Yeah, I think what I told you about my challenges, that's kind of my answer. If you're interested in policy research, having a strong reading and writing background is so important, of course, but you should also try and develop a quantitative skill set, sorry. Knowing how to use Excel and work with data, or even like learning the basics of a programming language like Stata or Python or R, can like really set you up for success in like opportunities, and take your math credits seriously, because that too will help, I think.
yeah, I definitely didn't take my math grades seriously.
Yeah, never in my life. I was like, any career with like a plus or a minus sign, I'm out. I can't.
Me neither. Freshman year, I got my first and only C. This is when I was just a political science major. I was taking like Algebra 1. I did horrible on the entrance exam, of course.
Yep.
And I was in Algebra 1 and I got a C. And I was like, well, that's great. I'm never taking math again. I'm done. And then junior year rolled around. And I was like, well, maybe I can, or I need to, so I will.
So
yeah.
what I hear from that is there's still hope for us, Shannon.
Okay. You know what? I'll take that. Natalia went from no math to give me all the math.
What about you, Shannon? What advice would you give to someone looking to go into the field?
Oh God. I don't know that I'm in a position to necessarily give advice because we're all still figuring things out as things happen. But I would definitely say to first make sure that you know that it's what you want to do. Just from a logistical standpoint, law school is a lot and getting in is a lot, and paying for it is a lot. So definitely make sure that there's something there that will keep you passionate for the rest of your life. Otherwise, you're going to go into a field that you absolutely hate. Yeah. But besides that, I would definitely say networking. Everyone, it may not seem like it, but everyone knows someone who knows someone who's a lawyer. So lawyers, and I've mentioned this in my student ambassador position with the law school, that we go into this profession because we want to help people. And we want that one-on-one interaction with most clients, or, whatever it may be. So I've never met a lawyer where I asked them a question and they yelled at me or were like, "You're bothering me." They were always willing to help questions, and asking someone who's experienced in the field is important. I don't know what just happened.
I think that's really good advice, especially the first one about knowing what you want to do. I feel like I would have been lost if I didn't stop and think about that when I was kind of on the way to law school. So you're right. Yeah.
I definitely agree, especially being a first gen law student. Like that's not something you just like, oh, I'm going to fall into it and just do it.
No. There's no falling. There's like diving head first.
Falling. But
oh God.
That's awesome.
We're doing great for anyone that's like concerned about us. We're fine. We're thriving.
We are. Look at us.
Right.
So I love talking about your guys' journey. So I think that really sets the stage to know like the different perspectives we're about to get as we talk about public policy. And I think that's super important because with any information we're getting nowadays, it's important to understand the context of it, right? So it's great to know where you guys come from, your backgrounds, all of that. So now we're turning more to what we came to talk about, which is public policy. That's a broad term, right? And it can mean a lot of different things. So can you guys explain to us and the viewers what public policy really is?
Yeah.
I would say public policy is like everything.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is everything.
Yeah.
It shapes everyone's lives. And even if you don't know it or if you're not aware of it, it really is just how you're able to live.
It's such a weird question because I wouldn't know how to define it or like how a textbook defines it. But I think it's kind of just about like problem solving And like Shannon said, it's everything. It's law, it's regulations, it's like executive orders. It's where funding goes, like appropriations bills, like that's policy. So yeah, it really is everything.
And it's how a lot of the laws also affect us as individuals, right? Like, okay, we can say that you have to wear your seatbelt, but what does that really mean? Like, how does that affect everyone and all of that?
Right. And I think that we've all seen a lot of public policy just in our day-to-day lives with COVID-19 that I think that a lot of people maybe weren't paying attention to public policy before, but now it's like, oh, you have to because you have to wear a mask and you have to not sneeze on people and things like that. I mean, you shouldn't do that like anyways, but now it's like, oh, there's an executive order saying like you could be criminally punished if you sneeze on another person.
Crazy. But you're right. That's a great point that I didn't even think about. It's now more than ever in front of our faces. So perfect timing to have this show, guys. So I kind of wanted to talk about how you guys have opposite quote unquote experiences. So Shannon, you talked about how you worked with the state's attorney, and Natalia, I don't think you mentioned it, but you did work in Congress with senators and all of that stuff. So Natalia had more of a national aspect to it, and Shannon, you have sort of locally because it's state. It's not like micro local, but it's still local. So can you guys talk a little bit about how those experiences, how your experiences in the government and how important the local and national scope is on public policy and how important it is to look at it both nationally and locally, I guess. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
You
so.
both looked at me. I was like,
Natalia's like, yes.
For me, I think I first interned for our former Florida Senator Bill Nelson in my second semester at Howard. And that was a bit eye-opening because I had my eyes on a lot of like constituent services type things. And people would write for help with like all aspects of their lives. And it was just like really good experience on like the purpose the government serves and how it can better people's lives if done right, and how it can make people's lives worse if not. You see that on the national level because like Bill Nelson, for example, he was in the Senate advocating for Floridians, but like he worked with senators to just improve, like the country overall. And same with Tim Kaine, who I interned for later on. He's a senator from Virginia. So those two congressional experiences were just kind of just I think I said what I wanted to say. But yeah, like the government can and should help people, and public policy is how you do it. And it's different from, like elections. We're in a big election year right now, and it's a lot of politics. It's a lot of talking, stump speeches, tweets. But public policy, I think, is where it's at and why the elections end up meaning something afterward.
I mean, on the local level, it's a little bit different. It's not so political, and I think a lot of people kind of overlook local public policy when it's actually really important. I know just ranging from, I worked at the Palm Beach County State Attorney's Office, but between Broward and Miami and all those other different counties, who you elect as a state attorney and who you elect as a public defender has a huge impact on the criminal justice system and how those offices operate. And I think people don't necessarily realize that and don't do their research on the local candidates as much as they would, for president or for vice president or whatever it may be. And I think it's really important to talk about because, for example, I know there are certain counties that are more, their assistant state attorneys that work under the state attorney have less discretion. So everything that they do has to be checked in with their chief or, whatever it may be. Whereas other counties are more liberal and they're more trusting, not trusting, I mean, everyone trusts their employees, but more giving in what they're allowing the assistant state attorneys to decide,
Right.
whether it's dismissing a case, null processing a case, whatever the case may be. It can be really different, and it doesn't necessarily impact you if you're not involved in the criminal justice system, but someone you know may be very quickly dragged into the criminal justice system. And it's really important to elect local officials that, you know, reflect your views and where you want the local community to go.
Yeah, I think that's super important to remember because, like you said, everyone focuses a lot on national, but they overlook what's happening right next door. That's huge. And speaking kind of what's been happening next door, there have been a lot of social movements going on during the pandemic for a lot of reasons, as we all know. How do you think those social movements help shape public policy, and how do they affect societal values?
I think they shape everything. If you don't put pressure on your elected officials, they are going to get complacent, and that's really dangerous. And I think that spreading those societal values, and you know, I don't think that we've ever had so much education available to us, just from, you know, Instagram, where you join because you want to see pictures of your friends, but then it's the Black Lives Matter movement and like so many movements that you just can get so educated on just because people are posting graphics or whatever it may be. I mean, it's so crazy because we didn't grow up that way. We didn't have Instagram and maybe not even Facebook until middle school. So, you know, when we were younger, we didn't know all this stuff. But now kids nowadays, they have all that information, the same information that we have. So I think it definitely shapes public policy and educating the younger generation, but also putting pressure on our current officials, and really putting forth what our societal values are as a whole and what we care about, and then in turn forcing the politicians to care about that as well.
Mm-hmm, definitely.
Yeah, I totally agree. It opens our government's eyes to what's missing. Like Instagram and Twitter, I think, have been so influential in that, in giving more people a voice. I could like get on Twitter right now and tweet every elected official that I elected, you know, last time around, and let them know what I wanted, you know, on any issue. And the civil rights movement in the 60s, we got so much in terms of just like a more complete democracy, like more rights for citizens, more protections. And we wouldn't have gotten that without like people in the streets protesting. They didn't write the laws, though. The politicians that felt the pressure, you know, put it in power. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's great to think about because I know there has been a huge movement, I guess, in the middle of summer, and now it almost feels like it's died down. And I think it's important to talk about what you guys just told us, because it's not just about like, okay, now you might not see it being posted as much, but you know, you still put that pressure on the politicians and something can still come from it. So I think that's super important to, and actually like gives hope, you know, that, hey, you might not be seeing all of this stuff, but people heard your voice. The politicians heard that there is a flaw somewhere that needs to be fixed. So
absolutely. And those people that, you know, when everything first started happening and the whole George Floyd murder occurred, I think that everyone flocked to social media. And that was great because that really started the ball. But I think that in different times in the past, it had very quickly died down and no one was talking about it anymore.
Right.
But I mean, even to this day, I'm still seeing Black Lives Matters posts, and I'm not mad about it. You know, I want to keep that ball moving, and that's great. But I think that I really do feel that this time is different because I'm still seeing people care so much, and I think that's awesome. And I think that that's what social media should be used for, and to keep that pressure on the politicians. I think it's unmatched, and this has never happened in our history. We've never had so much technology and the ability to do that. So I think it's great.
That's amazing. That's great stuff, guys. Thank you guys so much. We're not done yet. We're just going to pause for a quick commercial break and we'll be back to talk about more. So. welcome back. What a great commercial. Where are my guests? They left. Hello.
We're here.
We're back. Good. I got worried. I was like, oh no, they ran away. So great discussion so far, guys. I think that's very valuable information that you guys shared, and thanks so much for having these open discussions. Now I kind of want to switch over a little bit and talk about businesses and how they influence policy decisions and public institutions and things like that. I kind of want to talk both about the big businesses like Google, Amazon, the big guys, and also locally, because I think they might be different. What do you guys think?
This is something I've learned a lot about in the past year. I'm currently in consulting, and we help our clients facilitate like communications on public policy and the decisions of public institutions. And it wasn't something I was quite so privy to before. I think I had like an initial gut reaction of most people, like they think businesses being involved in policies like a negative thing. Like you think of cigarettes, like the tobacco industry, or polluters like looking to maintain a status quo, which, you know, is true. But I've seen in my experience that there are all these emerging industries, especially like tech specifically, and like blockchain and cryptocurrencies. And your elected officials, they aren't necessarily like informed really on the ins and outs of these emerging industries. And they don't know what these industries need in terms of regulations to help them thrive or to be job creators or to protect, you know, Americans. So I think it's important that to an extent, businesses do play a role in educating policymakers and regulators on what they need. There are limitations, of course, to that. You know, we can't just let businesses run unchecked. But in my experience, most businesses don't think they should. So, yeah.
I think on a local level, I am a current legal intern at a criminal defense attorney Rawson law firm based out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And I've seen what they do. And I don't know necessarily that a lot of local businesses do this, but they try to educate the people that follow them on Instagram or whatever, and then also their clients. So, you know, when the George Floyd stuff started happening, they started announcing that they were going to take on pro bono opportunities for people that had been wrongfully arrested or believed they were wrongfully arrested during any riots or protests. And I think that really shows just policy in general. You know, they don't necessarily, you know, maybe they don't agree with what's going on. And I'm not talking about the defense attorney directly, but just local businesses, they might not agree with public policy, and they really do have the power to help people. You know, if a restaurant thinks that the homeless problem is out of control and a public policy isn't stepping in to help them, they could help that. Yeah. They could open their doors, and I've seen businesses do that before. So I think that businesses definitely, even small ones, can really influence policy decisions, especially also with COVID. There was a huge movement of supporting local because everything was getting closed down. Mm-hmm. So I think that definitely helped open politicians' eyes to, hey, we really need to support our local and small business owners because they are the courageous ones in the country that, you know, stepped up to the plate and started their own business, and we really need to support them.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Yeah. I've seen that trend too. Like large corporations are taking ESG more seriously, like economic, social, corporate governance. And I think it's a good thing that we're seeing companies pledge to be carbon neutral by a certain year. And now like whole countries are pledging to be carbon neutral too. So I think their role is important. And I mean, it should be if we want thriving economy. So
yeah. And it's great that you were just talking about the carbon emissions, because that was kind of where I was going next, is how do these businesses affect like the policymakers' decision, like between science and I guess politics, and how does it play a role? Because I think of like the big guys who, I mean, not that I think there are a lot of them, I could be wrong, but like the big guys who really don't care if they dump their waste into the river next door. You know what I mean? And how does that affect how policymakers view science and all of that stuff? Because at the end of the day, these corporations are giving them money to run, you know what I mean? Things like that. So if you guys want to talk a little bit about that.
I think that science is really important.
I mean, say this lightly.
I'm like, how do I put this in a easy to understand way? It's really important. We all learn it growing up, but I think that I think science definitely puts the pressure to prove what you're saying. So, for example, like you said, the big company dumping in the local river or whatever it may be. People are going to sue you, and you're going to have to go in court, and you're going to have to defend yourself and say, why you did it or what was the justification for doing it. So I think that science definitely helps back it up in a more solidified way, instead of just being like, oh, we didn't know and we thought it would be fine. It's not. And for example, in Flint, I know that there was a long time where they didn't have good clean water. And that pressure really started because they were like, because science came into play. And then again, what we were talking about before, the social movements, everyone heard about it, Flint, Michigan, no one knows where Flint is, but because there was such a high social media presence that it definitely put pressure on the policymakers, and then they had to go and, look at the science and all that. So.
Yeah. And I think now policymakers, thankfully, are a bit more willing to embrace like what the science says. Frankly, it's too late. I read a really good book the other day about like the history of politics and the climate change movement, and scientists have basically been saying the same thing since like last century. And we're listening now. It would have been way easier to correct back then. But now, I mean, I even see people on the right who generally, not all, but generally, that's where there are a lot of people who deny climate scientists. Mm-hmm. And I'm seeing more of an embracing of science on both sides of the aisle. I don't think we've made much movement in terms of like translating that into actual policy, but at least there's some more willingness there.
Yeah, slowly but surely.
Yeah.
We'll get there eventually.
Yeah, we will.
It's the pressure. You got to keep the pressure on.
That's so important. How do you guys think gender, race, class, and other aspects of identity affect policy making in that process?
Oh, that's a heavy question.
Yeah, it is a heavy question. But lately, I have been a bit tuned in to research that supports the idea that if, for example, America in our policymaking decided to help those who are worse off or who typically have been excluded from opportunities, like if that was our framework, how best to help that one part of society, which namely Black women is that part of society. If we made sure that all of our policies would benefit Black women, that would help make everyone more well off. White men, white women, everyone will benefit if we just take into account like different identities and different experiences and historical, inequities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think with what you just said, I think of that quote, like, a team's only as strong as its weakest player.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or the thing that's like, I don't know what exact word they use, but like fairness or justice or whatever, it's not pie. Like just because someone else gets more, it doesn't mean that you get less. That's not how it works. So, I mean, I think that all of us as women, and then we're all minority women as well, I think that definitely shaped who we are. And I don't want to speak for you guys, but it definitely shaped me for who I am. And I think that it's really important to acknowledge that people come from different backgrounds. And I mean, for so long, policymaking was for white men. And then you threw in, white women. And then with the civil rights movement, you added in Black men and women. So I think that we're definitely taking steps in the right direction, but I'm not sure that we're at our final stage. And I think that it's really important to continue to, like I said a million times now, but put the pressure on the politicians because, like you said, Gabby, we're only as strong as our weakest player. So,
yeah. And your point about the pie, one of the favorite things I learned in undergrad econ class was this theory of basically you take a pie and the pie like grows in size. It's not fixed. And the pie grows in size even better if we set up people who are at the bottom rungs of the ladder. If we set them up to contribute to our economy, then even the wealthiest people at the top benefit from a larger economy.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I
it's
like
definitely
that.
not. Yeah.
So we want people to have the pie.
Yeah, everyone deserves a slice, and even the rich will get richer. So
wow.
Win-win, everyone gets pie.
yeah.
I love pie.
Me too.
So how do you guys think, I know we talked about it a little bit in the beginning, so I kind of want to delve a little into that, but the pandemic, how has the pandemic affected public policy?
Me and Natalia are making the exact same face. Like we both tucked our lips in. We're just like, okay. I think the pandemic has really affected our, shall we say, weaknesses in public policy, and where we kind of let people fall through the cracks. Because in non-pandemic times, you don't really see a whole lot of people are suffering and people are doing this and that and dealing with this on a daily basis. But then when everyone is dealing with it on a daily basis, it's like, wait, I'm having such a hard time and I'm so privileged that what if I didn't have this privilege? What if I didn't have parents that could support me? Or what if I didn't know someone who was willing to hire me on for the summer and I really needed money or something like that? So I think it definitely highlighted the issues and like I said, our major weaknesses in public policy. And I mean, hopefully that we can just keep moving forward and become stronger from this and fix those lapses in public policy.
Yeah, retweet everything Shannon just said. Particularly with like our public health infrastructure, we were not ready. The safety net too, which Shannon touched on, like we were not ready. Every other wealthy nation in the world, comparable to the United States in other ways, was ready. Like it did not have to be this way, and I think that it's opened a lot of Americans' eyes to like where we should have been, even without a pandemic. So
I think it's sad thinking about it, but it's kind of nice that, at least now everyone realizes, I think like if the pandemic didn't happen, how long would not we, but like how long would people have ignored the real issues happening,
I think it would have gone on forever.
Really?
Yeah, or at least until the next pandemic.
Oh my gosh, no more, please. Like I just pray that like the next 3 lifetimes there's no more pandemics. This is just wild that this is our world.
This is the one for the ages.
And everyone was like, 2020, it's a new decade. It's going to be a great year. Oh boy, we really, everyone jinxed it. Like the entire universe jinxed.
I think we all had really high expectations. Too much pressure.
Classes, 2020 classes. Yeah.
2020 is me like crumbling under the pressure.
The good news is it's almost over, right?
Right. 2021.
2021 better not be just like a continuation of this year. Like we have to put a start and end date, okay?
Yeah. So I want to now talk about, because I think one thing that we've touched on a lot is human rights as a whole, and different aspects of what human rights entails. So how can a human rights perspective be integrated into public policy making, the making of public policy?
Natalia?
Yeah.
I
I know I've talked a lot about economic support for things, but at when you take away everything else, we're humans and we're deserving of respect and opportunities and happiness and privacy. And I think sometimes it's easy to get swept up in figures. Our president loves to talk about the stock market right now and how that's evidence that he's doing a good job, but hundreds of thousands of people are dead, and many more are out of work and starving despite what the stock market is saying.
Yeah.
So making that again the center of our thinking, how can government help people, help humans? How can government help ensure that all humans are treated the same? I think has to be more of a priority. And thankfully, that's kind of what this summer showed us with the protests. It's Americans coming together to say all of us should be created, or all of us should be treated equally. So
yeah, it's important.
I think that there's a we're really lacking compassion nowadays. And I think that we see that not in our politicians necessarily as human individuals. I don't want to say that they're not compassionate people. But I think that it's very easy to get your priorities all twisted when you're trying to make everyone happy, which politicians do try to do. And I think that should be put aside for, your basic core human compassion. I think that the politicians should care about the people that elected them and the people that they represent. And I don't see how you can call yourself truly successful if you're not taking care of everyone on your team. Yeah. And I think that the compassion thing, I wish there was a compassion shot that you could just inject people with and be care more, care about your people more.
Yeah.
But there's not, but I think that that's really important.
Yeah.
Maybe they can put that shot in the coronavirus shot and just have a one.
Ooh, a 2-in-1 vaccine.
Yeah.
You're kind of rude sometimes, and this also protects you from the coronavirus, so you're double protected.
That'd be cool. Yeah, that's so important. And I think we talked a lot about just so much good stuff. And I think one thing that I want to leave off with is how you both personally think we can improve public policy and the way it's handled in our country. Because I want to end
I said,
good note. I mean, it has been great.
A good note.
Positive,
but a positive one where we can look to what we can do. Yeah. And I think that it definitely is just with education, and educating yourself, educating those around you, and listening to people. I think it's really easy to, when you have privilege, to look at someone and say, well, why did you do that? And why did you do it that way? Or, you're somehow responsible for whatever has happened to you. And that's not the case. I mean, there's so many stories out there of things happening, whether it be police brutality or a homeless situation. They didn't ask for that. They didn't go out looking for it. No one does. So I think that really listening to people is super, super important. And like I said, just the compassion, just because they're a stranger doesn't mean they're any less of a human to you, and they shouldn't be. You can help your local homeless people if you have, something that I like to do, which is, I'm just putting this as a pro tip. I can afford my own Chick-fil-A. If I want Chick-fil-A, I can go and buy, a chicken sandwich and some fries. But the rewards I get from that, I will usually use that as get a meal, and then I will give it to a homeless person because I can afford to get it for myself. And it's not putting a dent in my bank account to use those rewards and help people that are around me. So I think that just having that compassion and helping people, even on a local level, whether it be individual or, working with local institutions to help policy. I think that it's just so important to just do your part, whether it's big or small or anything at all.
Yeah, that's great.
I like that a lot. And hopefully that way we like manage up to our leaders. Like if we're all being more compassionate, they'll get the picture of what our priorities are for our policy making. I think my AirPod keeps falling out.
Mine too.
I think for me, something I'd like to see more of, and in a good way, we've seen a bit of this during the pandemic, is I think our country should be more open to like thinking bigger about what's possible, like how the government can help.
Yeah.
My favorite kind of example is we all got checks, or most of us got checks when the pandemic like first set out, just cash, like no strings attached. You could use it however you want. And I mean, for years, like that's been a pie in the sky idea that like nobody wanted to take seriously. Andrew Yang ran for president. People laughed at him. And even before that, there were people on the right and on the left who thought it was a good idea, but it got laughed off as impossible. Like the government just giving people money regularly. But we saw that during the pandemic. So I think it's a good example of like, we can do bigger things. So yeah.
That's a great example. I didn't even think of that.
I thought it was never going to happen when they were talking about it. I was like, there's no way. I'm sorry. There's no way that the United States government is going to just send me $1,200. And then that like check hit in my bank account. And I was like, am I like, do I have to return this eventually? Like, what is this?
What's the catch?
I was like, this has never happened before. This is the wildest thing that I've seen in my 23 years of life.
Yeah.
1,200 just given to me.
That's great. I think that's great advice. And I think you guys gave a lot of really good nuggets in this conversation. And I hope our audience is really enjoying it and taking it to heart and seeing that there is hope for us and that we can make the change that we want to see, because ultimately we're all the leaders of tomorrow, as they say, or of right now, because y'all already worked in the, we're already doing the leadership thing. So I think that's awesome.
We're like Oprah. We're like tossing out hope nuggets. Like, you have a hope nugget. You have a hope nugget.
I love that. Exactly. That's awesome. Now just to end with a little, I always like to end with this question just because I think that the people I usually have on the show usually have really great big plans going on. I love to hear about it and give our audience that like, hey, I can do it too. I think the whole point of this show was to kind of unite young professionals and realize like, I can do it as well. So my question to you guys is, what are your goals for the next 3 years and what are you doing to develop those goals?
For me, in 3 years, I hope to be in graduate school, studying public policy. After that, like putting research into practice. But that's where I'd like to be in 3 years. So now what I'm doing for that is I'm just trying to get all my ducks in a row. I'm doing what you guys were doing before law school. I'm doing it now. So making sure I know which kind of programs I want to apply to. And so all that good stuff. That's where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
My goals for the next 3 years, to start with, graduate law school. I mean, I really need to make it through this program, guys. But in the spring, I'm externing at the United States Attorney's Office, for the Northern District of Florida. So I'm super excited. Thank you. So that's what I'm doing right now. And I guess like my main goal, besides graduating law school and passing the bar, wherever I take it, that's also something that I need to figure out like soon. But I would definitely just say, on a big scale, like career wise, criminal law is what I want to do. So something, whatever that may be, I don't know. We're just going with the flow here. But doing that and then just continuing to help people. I mean, it's something that I think everyone should really prioritize in their life. whether or not it's financially viable is a different story, and that's something that everyone has to figure out for themselves.
Yeah.
But I think that just continuing to help people and on a individual basis, I think that can make all the difference in whether it just be one person's lives, you're still helping someone. So
yeah. And I love what you talked about, like the Chick-fil-A rewards, because that's a great option for like, hey, I don't have all this money to
right.
give, but I have these rewards I can give. I think that's awesome.
Exactly. I'm like, okay, I can't, like, I don't want to see $14 for like 2 meals coming out of my bank account, but I can spend the 7 on mine, and I can kind of just like use those rewards to help people.
Great stuff, guys. So now if you guys want to share like contact information in case our viewers want to get in touch with you personally, talk with you about something great you said, you can do so at this time, or just say farewell, whatever you want to do. This is your chance to shine.
Anyone can contact me. I will include my school email, which is sw15@my.fsu.edu. Or my LinkedIn profile is that really long link, or you can just like look me up, Shannon Wong.
Awesome.
Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. It's much more organized there than my email inbox, as I was telling Gabby earlier. But I'm on there and I respond to messages there. So
awesome, guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us on here, Gabby.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Of course. I'm so glad you guys wanted to be on and wanted to talk about these difficult conversations. So thank you guys so much, and for giving so much hope and light into the important issues at hand. Thank you guys. Thank you to the viewers for watching. I hope you stuck around this whole time and got valuable information. Thanks for sticking with us through our break, but we're back now. So stay tuned to see when our next show is and who we have on our next show and all that stuff. Make sure to subscribe and like the Boca Raton Tribune on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram, and you can see all the videos. My show's on there. There's other shows, great shows going on. So I think there's a genre for everyone. So just check it out. And yeah, see you guys next week. Thanks so much.